Welcome to the channel. In today's session, we will be focusing on how to create a Kubernetes cluster in less than 10 minutes of time. We will try to show you hands-on how we will be doing this. So for creating a Kubernetes cluster in less than 10 minutes, we have to search that is called a website that is called as Play with Kubernetes. We have to search this website, Play with Kubernetes. We have to go to this particular website. Once you come over here, you need to log in to this particular website. You can log in with the help of Docker Hub. You can log in here with the help of Docker Hub. If you have login on Docker Hub, you can use the same credential, or if you have account on github.com, you can use the same credential. So as of now, I have logged in with the help of my Docker Hub credential. Okay, so you need to create your Docker Hub credential or GitHub credentials. That would be super easy. It will take a small 2 to 3 minutes. Once you are done, you come over here and then you can click add instance. Once you click on add instance, what will happen? You will see a instance has been provisioned for you, and you have to do these 3 steps. The step number 1 is mandatory. You need to run this step number 1. You need to run step number 2, and step number 3 is basically optional. What step number 1 is doing? Step number 1 is basically doing a bootstrapping of a Kubernetes cluster with the help of Kubeadm. Kubeadm is basically a command line tool that helps you to provision a non-managed Kubernetes cluster. So we will be using Kubeadm to bootstrap a Kubernetes cluster, okay, in less than 10 minutes of time, or I say less than 8 minutes of time. Let's get started. So once you run this particular command, you go with the second command, and then third is basically optional. So we will be doing step number 1 and step number 2. In case if you are working on a Mac system, there are some of the we call this as some of the what do you call it, shortcut keys, right? So you can use these shortcut keys. Okay, so let's get started, and I will be just in doing alt plus enter. If you are on Windows, you do alt plus enter. Once you do alt plus enter in Windows, it will make this into full screen. Okay, and in Mac it is different a bit. So we will increase the font of this one, okay, with the help of alt plus enter, and just copy this particular command. So copy this, paste it here, okay, and hit enter. So once you hit enter, what will happen? It will the Kubeadm, as I told you. So once you hit enter this particular command, what will happen? Kubeadm try to initialize a cluster, and it will provision a control plane for you, and then we have to perform we have to implement networking, and for implementing the networking, we will be using this particular command. So initialize cluster networking. So you just copy this particular command, copy this, Control C, and once this command is done, you can paste it out. Okay, now hit enter. What will happen here is you will see the networking has been implemented. A config map object, a daemon set object, a service account object, cluster role and role binding has been created. After this, what you need to do? You need to run a command. After this, you need to run a command, and this particular command is this: export kubeconfig /etc kubernetes admin.conf. Copy this particular command and run like this. Okay, after this, you're gonna be running kubectl get node to list how many nodes you have in your cluster. Right now we have only created the control plane. Worker node is not yet created. So how do we basically create the worker node? So we will be going here, we will be doing we will be adding one more instance which act as a worker node, and we will run this particular command. This command is called as Kubeadm join. So you carefully copy this particular command, and you come to node number 2 and directly run this particular command. So you will be running this particular, don't do mistake while copying the command, because if anything goes here and there, it will not run. So simply run this particular command, and now it says ki go to the main window, and run the command kubectl get node. So now we can see we have node 1 is acting as a control plane and node 2 is acting as worker node. In case if you need two worker node, okay, you go and provision one more worker node and you run the command simply. Okay, so this is a free resource, and this is a free resource available on Kubernetes for practicing. This is a free resource available on Google for practicing Kubernetes. If you want to do some hands-on on Kubernetes, you can go and you can easily provision a cluster. Don't waste the resource. I think one control plane and one worker node is enough. No need to provision two worker nodes unless and until it is required. So carefully use this particular resource, and once you run this command on the worker node 2 as well, go here and let's run the command kubectl get node. So what you will see one control plane with two worker nodes coming into picture, correct? Now here we will be, now let's go and kubectl get nodes. So it will show you all the worker nodes and control plane, and if you want to list the details of the nodes, you can go with -o wide command, and this command is going to help you list the details. Currently this particular Kubernetes version cluster is 1.27.2, which is quite very old version if you follow the Kubernetes versions. So yeah, so if you see here, if you go to kubernetes.io, this is the official page where you can see what is the current version. So if you see, the latest version for Kubernetes is 1.32, and the version that we have created over here is 1.27. okay, the cluster that we have created is version 1.27, but this is for hands-on. Let's do some hands-on. Let's try to create a pod and deployment using let's try to create a pod and deployment and see whether I am able to create it or not. So kubectl, I will use kubectl run my pod -image equals to -image colon nginx -image equals to nginx colon 1.21 and enter. So kubectl get pod. Yes, I can see the pod is basically currently, the pod is in container creating state. It will take a while and it will get created. If you want to create namespace, you can do so. Kubectl create dev, create a namespace dev. This is how a namespace can be created, and you can create a pod. Inside a dev namespace as well using the same command. You have to only specify -namespace space equals to dev. So right now what we have done, we have created a pod in default namespace and we have created a pod in dev namespace. Okay, similarly you can create a deployment as well. Kubectl create deployment my deployment, and this deployment will be also using image. We can use the same image for deployment as well, 1.21, and you can create the deployment into the namespace that you want or you default. So okay, so there is something error in the syntax. So image equals to, it will be there. So image equals to, now you can see a deployment has been also created, kubectl get pod -n dev. Okay, so you can see there is a pod and there is a deployment in the dev namespace. I will be telling one small difference between Kubernetes pod and deployment object. So both are object in Kubernetes. Okay, so if you delete the deployment, if you delete a pod which has been created by deployment, it will be auto created. Okay, so let's see here. So right now you can see kubectl get deployment. If you want to list the deployment, you can list the deployment like this. If you want to list the pod in the namespace, you can go and you can list like this. Okay, so currently the pod from deployment is in container creating state. It will take a while to get the pod up and running. Okay, yeah, so that's it for this particular video. I hope you must have liked it, and this is a great tool. Utilize it carefully. You don't need to provision a full-fledged Kubernetes cluster on AWS EKS or Azure or GKE for doing the hands-on labs. If you want to perform your Kubernetes labs, you can come here, you can create this cluster in less than 5 minutes, and then you can proceed. So that's it. Thank you. Please share the video, like and subscribe the channel. Thank you.